That's the button, that's the preparations, and that is the custom live stream services, which may or may not include such services as YouTube and Twitch and probably some others. I've got the loudest
They
Taco
say if
Bell
it ain't
ad
broke,
in
don't fix
my
it.
headphones right
But
now
we
that I
put it inside
think I've
burritos
ever
and tacos
experienced.
anyway.
And if
Crispy
you're
chicken
not
from
seeing
Taco
that,
Bell,
then
a
that
brand
probably
new
means you're
clap.
not on Twitch. Maybe you got a different ad. I don't know. Yep, that's how we start things. This is The Art of Rock, where we talk about the process and experience of making music, brought to you by the patrons of Angelspit. Our intrepid guide, Carl Zug von Rock of that same band, can't be on the show this week, so in the meantime, I'm helping keep it going. My name is Raziel. I'm from the band You Shriek. I would like to mention that the land I'm on is historically cared for. Traditionally, historically cared for by the people of the Massachusetts tribe. So I'm taking a moment to honor the first people who lived, worked, and loved the Boston area long before colonization. And with that, this week I have, oh my God, like a whole bunch of links. This is what happens when you join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. PDT, 12 p.m. EDT, which is actually EST right now, people. That needs a little update, but you know what I'm talking about. 6 p.m. Berlin for Art of Rock. I think you know the link, but there it is. Let's say we're looking at Twitch because I'm only capable of pasting it into one place at a time. Also, if you want to check it out on Angelspit's YouTube, it would be here. And let's say, oh yeah, definitely go to Angelspit's Patreon because there's definitely a wealth of stuff over there. And while you're at it, check out the Industrial Decisions playlist. It is prime cuts of new and old industrial. Awesome. That is official. That is the description and tagline for the great stuff that's on there, including some of the musicians that are on here. Some are in the chat and some that you've never heard before. But apparently, from what I'm told, they will become your favorites. And that also happens when you check out nonstop dark alternative music on MTV TV, which you can find here. And you can probably also check out their Patreon because, hey, this is a place to patronize artists and people who do creative work. And it's actually kind of cool. And maybe at some point we'll talk about some of the upselling stuff that they've added there. But in the meantime, you've got a lot of ways to throw a couple bucks to people who, could really benefit from it for the time that they put into the work they do. And that includes me, oh, there's one for me here. I have a Patreon also. Look at that. I was explicitly told to pimp this. So if this is pimping, that is where you go for my Patreon thing. And I did just put up a couple of videos in the past couple of weeks. I'm doing some cover tunes, me and a guitar playing to the cameras and eventually to your ears. Ideally, that would be where they should go. Last message is politics. If you want to get political, indivisible.org. If you have some ideas about where this country is going and you want to find some ways to voice them most effectively or share the ideas, it's a cool place to go. Man, that's a lot of information. Hopefully some of that's useful. And now I see exactly how Carl does that. So, props. Well, hi, gentlemen. What kinds of stuff went on this week that you want to bring up before we dive into some topics? Maybe they even segue into some. Ivan, did you do something this week? Something good happen? Something challenging?
And I'm working on the latest Kevin Key remix project on his Patreon. He posts up stems. Then you take those and go and make a song.
Interesting. Let's put a pin in that as a full topic to sort of discuss the idea of remixes and how you approach them and what some of the things that are fun and edifying for those. Anything else that was on your creative docket? Was that taking up your whole time?
That has primarily been my main thing this week.
Did you get to use that synthesizer you bought from the last week? Map.
Yes, I'm using that as my like main voice in in this one, which is kind of cool because I do like the way it sounds. It sounds nice.
Excellent. Well, in case I didn't mention it, that is from Vulture Culture's Synth Deep Dives,
Yeah.
and that would be here on YouTube. Cool channel to check out if you're into mercilessly comparing synths. And so that one's your main voice on the remix. I'm sorry, I was.
Yeah. My main voice on the mix. Right now I'm using a preset. That may change. I'm starting to learn how how to patch that thing. Which is cool. Also, I'm currently, for a controller, I'm using the wave state actually, which is short, you know, 49 key and
Short
like
this way or short this way? Because
both.
okay.
But it's a 49 key, which I find I need a little more room. I need an extra octave to, really
Yeah,
express myself.
yeah, you gotta like sort of get with the octave switch here. So you're playing the
Yeah, I
lick
keep
in
doing
one
that.
position, and then I mean they all have it. It's
They
possible to
do.
do.
Uh, yeah, the big hydrosynth is sitting over on the other side of the room, which is too far away right now to just reach over and use. Um, this gets into, the arrangement of one studio.
Interesting,
Mine is
and
arranged,
also controllers.
yes, and right now it's all really arranged poorly in here because I just don't have space.
Well, cool. I'll put a pin in that too, and we'll come back to studio arrangements, including controller surfaces and stuff. Uh-huh. Brett, how's it going? What'd you do this week?
How's it going,
Oh my
everyone?
God, you sound amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, yeah, so this week, I'm sorry, today I'm a little bit tired because I spent way too much time last night working on vocals for a new track. Um, to that regard, there's a VST that I'm starting to use heavily. That's Evoke. If you've not messed with it, it's pretty badass.
I have not. Drop a link in the chat when when you're done telling me what you've done with it and what it's about and what you like about it.
All right, so I use a lot of effects anyway. Just because I like the sound of them, right? There's for our
Oh, cool.
chat, you know.
I'll throw it in then.
Anyway, okay, very good. Anywho, so what I typically do, I typically model it after. I typically model my voice after three elements. The human voice, and then something sidechain to a higher timbre, and something sidechain to its lower timbre. And that usually gives a pretty dissonant kind of effect.
Cool.
What I'm doing with Evoke is using that as a base concept, but it treats it more like an advanced vocoder. And that I hear me anyway.
That's now you know how long the delay is round trip from YouTube. I'll
That's right.
I'll make it so that doesn't come back into your ears from now on. But in case you are wondering, just for reference, please go on.
Yes, sir. Uh, so anyway, what I've been able to do is take a single recorded track, a single recorded vocal track, and create harmonies and everything else with this tool. Making it what I'm liking about it is, when you start trying to blend multiple tracks of vocals, it's very difficult and takes a lot of practice to get that every single time the exact same timing. um, speech just doesn't really work like that.
Just ask John Lennon.
Right. And so when I start doing multiple vocal tracks, I find that it gets kind of muddy, or it can get kind of muddy. And then a lot of that is also the frequencies in my voice as well. So, but that's also why I like single tracks, where you can actually keep them much cleaner, much tighter, get it right the first time. So to that song, that's actually working really well, but it has also
Cool.
pissed me off because there's like two other songs now in which I'm going to scrap probably.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'm going
Well,
to scrap at least 10 hours worth of work.
does that mean really, really scrapping them, or do you at least put them in the bin and possibly, have them for combing through later and seeing if there's anything that you might have wanted to use?
Probably yes in both cases to different degrees.
Cool.
So there's going to be a lot of straight up, okay, these tracks, these recorded items just aren't working, and there's no reason to keep the data anymore. I'm not going to reuse it.
It's understandable. Yeah.
And there are elements though that are interesting, but are I just don't like it anymore.
I mean that's taste. That is an important thing to come up against and know when you're doing something that isn't working, and I think cut bait and go on to something else. For the record, I don't think I've ever thrown anything away. I don't think I've ever decided this is not ever going to work. Maybe that's silly because now I just have stuff that I'm never going to see again. Maybe I will actually go through it at one point, but do you have that habit of going back through stuff when you're about to start a new collection of work or anything, or do you generally just move straight ahead every time you sit down to work for perpetuity?
No, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm very ADD. I'll typically come into the studio with the idea to start a new song, work on a current song, get bored with it, jump to an older song, get an entire frame of reference how the lore fits together,
I feel
go back
that,
to the new song, and I'm still sitting there like, damn it, I came here to write a new song.
Surprise! I've said it before, but the number of times where I've opened up an old session and I found the other 3 songs that I was trying to get started after the timeline ends from a finished mix. Ivan, can I ask you the same question to keep what do you do with your old pieces that you've decided aren't worth doing right now? Do you tend to throw stuff out? Do you keep it?
Save them forever, and then eventually we'll go back to old stuff, and quite often end up having to like update them to the new version of Ableton because they've been sitting around for so long. And I've occasionally I will find gold in there.
Good.
Yeah, which is absolutely, what the heck is my blood sugar doing?
Well, you're getting in a blood sugar alarm in the middle
Of course.
That's how that works.
But
oh my God.
Yeah,
that sounds serious.
Yeah, it.
Are you going to crash?
No. Thankfully these days, the automated systems will pick things up long before it's a problem.
Okay, well, Josie sends you regards.
But I've totally found that like just never throwing anything away.
Yeah.
It definitely means that I need to keep a bigger hard drive around.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, fortunately, audio is small, and audio clips with MIDI, music clips, sessions with just MIDI in them are tiny, and it's almost an infinite, place to capacious hard drives to keep your stuff until you start collecting multi-track audio. But that sort of leads me to
and I've got plenty of that to go around too.
Yeah. And
I've got gigabytes of video footage, going back to like when I was doing machinima stuff with IL2.
Oh, right. I can relate. I've definitely got, I'm on 8 terabyte drives right now that are starting to fill up. I guess probably 12 or 18 is the new less expensive size. I don't even know. So you can tell how long it's been since I last upgraded my drives. But I'm more on that keep everything kind of tip, like I was saying, and that includes camera source videos, photo originals, multi-tracks from recording of music. And I was wondering if either of you have a method for remembering what's what, like, or is it just like, hey, the ADD takes over and there's the mess, and you may never see it again. I do have one folder myself called like sketches. Like those are unassessed. I did a thing. It's in there. I may want to go back to it. It is not a complete idea by any stretch. So that's kind of where my hierarchy starts.
I have like a junk folder, which is overflowing with junk. And then I have a demo folder, which is stuff that's been published as a demo. And then I have a song folder, which is stuff that's going to get published as a song. So like as it goes through the life cycle of a piece of music, it will, move
Kind of
across whatever
migrates.
it's in. Yeah, and then like, you know, in my younger years, I spent a lot of time working for the phone company. And so like at this like probably slightly different understanding of like cold storage and warm storage and
Hmm.
hierarchical storage management, because it was a big deal in that world. And I have found that like the more you can take like good like librarian, data management rules
Library
that
sciences.
you learn from like working in IT, if you can apply those to managing your music junk, then it it really, really helps keep, you know, like keep that dragon under
Yeah,
control,
yeah,
because
yeah.
that is one very mean-spirited dragon if you let it get away with its own business, because you'll just end up with, unusable, data in all sorts of strange places, which no, you don't want that. Like that
And then
starts.
there's bit rot, and then you can't open them, and then they're so old that who knows what they are, and then you got to go find something that still opens Sound Designer 2 files, and yeah, this is absolutely, and something that'll still attach a floppy drive to your main computer to re-archive it. Brett, do you keep track of the stuff, or is it maybe you already sort of alluded to this, or what's your folder hierarchy for getting back to anything that you may have decided isn't absolutely junk, as Ivan puts it, and you don't want to go back to?
Yeah. So my way has evolved over time. What I've been saying there about IT and whatnot definitely have shaped the way I do things.
Yeah.
Um, I have an entire drive that is named Studio Work. Um, that is the top down. Within that, I am looking at then elements for like the different synths. So I've got CZ patches, DX patches, K2000, microchord, etc. Then you get back to another folder called Studio Work, and then you get 666 because why
Ah.
not? And from there it drops into basically the different bands.
This is like a pretty serious organizational hierarchy then. So you do know where to look for stuff when you're
Yep.
in the flow working on a song. What do you most find yourself going to? Is it for patch librarian or recall,
This
or is it more for music clips and stuff?
No, this is straight up Windows folder hierarchy. I've got a lot of sounds.
Just meaning functionally though, like when
Oh,
you're
function.
looking for, say, a sound, do you tend to be able to go to your library of your Windows folder hierarchy and find the things that you're looking for, or is it like more musical ideas and recordings? You're able to actually leverage the work that you've done to organize them in the creative flow.
It is very much both.
Cool.
So FL Studio allows me to view this view. And so that's part of why it exists, so that way I can access anything in my library, and it gives me a search tool to help with that. They also have their own cloud libraries. So if I'm looking for something, a sound or something that I haven't heard yet, let's say I want something cinematic, I can put in that category and then pull from the cloud side of things.
Cool. And that would be stock stuff or stuff that you've shared up to the cloud?
It's literally a subscription service where
Ah.
it is with FL Studio, and they release new packs all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But no, I pay for it. But no, as long as you have had this subscription when you grab the sound, which is the only way you're going to get it anyway, you're free to use it however you like. It's
As I recall, Ivan almost reached through the screen grid and punched Phoenix last week for talking about prepared library sounds.
Well, I understand.
I hope I didn't sound that bad.
No,
And in that regard, I've been using FL Studio for years and years and years, and I know their licenses and their tool very well. And this is just a feature of that tool.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way.
I mean, I definitely my line is at like string libraries and brass. I don't use a lot of brass, but if I did, but usually if the thing comes with drum collections and drum machine collections, multi-sample drums, big string orchestral pianos, stuff like that is usually where like those kind of library things are cloud based or subscription based or part of the production bundle of the thing. I always opt for those. Like I'll always get the producer bundle or whatever. But I have not much used like loops or patches or things like that from the shared cloud. I have, on the other hand, started with presets like crazy, and that's really similar. And I have certainly, yeah, it's still a weird line. I did want to go back to one thing that you touched on, and maybe y'all both have techniques and habits around this. I was starting to get interested in the idea that you use Evoke for the vocals rather than doing multi-tracks of your own vocals. And this is the same thing. I made the John Lennon joke. He was famously fucking hated doing his doubles. I don't know. He just didn't want to do it. He's like, I already sang it. I sang the thing. I don't want to do it again. I weirdly like inventing a group of friends to sing with me. I will, new track, and just keep going and build these stacks in the spirit of Roy Thomas Baker and Queen and the Cars and Yes to some extent, and nerd out on trying to do technical, correct harmony with good voice leading and stuff by singing it myself. Yep. And it's a very different approach to using a vocoder, which I do all the time. It's a very different approach than using a harmonizing multi-voicer plugin like TC Electronic or I assume Evoke does. I guess it makes me a hippie, like I think it's a throwback attitude to have for sure. But they did it up into the mid 80s, so not entirely flower power. But big ass stacks of vocals where you seek to not hear individual voices is kind of a fun challenge phase for me. Like if I'm not playing a game or something, I can spend a week getting through the gauntlet of trying to align and tune vocals by either punching or retuning or using. There's a couple of this is where I'm going with it. There's a couple of tools to auto align or vocalign your stacks. So the other method of doing what end up sounding kind of like hard quantized, pitch corrected stacks of vocals using a real-time tool like you're talking about in Evoke. I think Vocalign is the last one that I used for rap vocals when I was mixing clients here. You put one track as the main and one track as the guide main, and then one track as the follow, and then several tracks as the follow, and it'll automatically find the syllables and align your plosives and consonants stacked perfectly if you want, or with errors if you want. And I don't know. I mean, it's just another approach. I'm not a pedant about that for sure. I think they're doing things so that they sound like robot choruses is totally valid. However you get there. But it's just my personal choice has been to spend an extra month singing tracks of vocals because I don't have everybody around. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my approach from it kind of stems back to kind of what Phoenix does right now. I started off, messing with like acid and such, and until I first began with Cakewalk, honestly, and synthesizers. But
Cakewalk was formerly upstairs from my loft on Melcher Street here in Boston. They're
lucky you.
Interesting.
I would have been a rat in those walls.
Yeah.
Anyway, Uh, so when I was introduced to Acid and SoundForge, Cool Edit, and those things, I really got to where, sampling for me became manipulation of audio instead of, it applying to the limitations of a machine or a specific machine. It was, I can now manipulate the audio itself. And at at the end of the day, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So if I grab a sound out of a sample bank or something like that, it's because I'm hearing a quality in it that I know is going to fit what I'm either doing or what I'm going to do to it. And one of the things that I'll target when I'm going hunting is just what key is it in. Because
Mm-hmm.
at that point I need, and I'll give you the most common example is typically I'll need some sort of choir. And if they sound more or less angelic, then that's always kind of fun and fits the motif.
Right.
So I'll grab literally, I need a G and I need it done by a female voice. But that's also where once I learn how they produce that sample, I'm after the instrument that allows that ability again.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like I recently picked up Omnisphere. I'm not heavy into it yet. I have done plenty in terms of just kind of sound design stuff in the studio.
There's a lot of interesting, like, that's the Plunderphonics kind of lore kind of attitude too, because like I, the availability of so many well documented samples and knowing, like, I guess Stravinsky Rite of Spring was Fairlight Arc 1, famously. I think that if I have my stats right, and which actual recording it was from by listening back to it, and then you hear that moment and it's like, oh, that is the actual Fairlight Orchestra stab that made it onto 4,000 albums in the day. And it has its own statement, its own personality, its own identity that goes through the eras and into your recording. I don't know, knowing that's kind of fun, but then again, that's kind of a optional artistic attitude where sometimes it's just what's on the surface that matters more and really the full package. But it is a balancing act. It's interesting.
So one of the things that comes from that though is, you were asking about the choice to do a single vocal track versus layered. I'm still layering.
Yes.
It's just what I'm doing is I'm actually then looping myself. I'm grabbing a sample out of something I've done and then manipulating it in a side chain somehow.
I love that craft.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just something I like to do.
I miss having a repertoire with good vocal processing, pitch effect things. Like I don't. I should just check out Evoke, or I mean, I've got things already installed even that do that kind of stuff, where you can do a vocoder style MIDI control. And I know Ableton added MIDI to pitch real time control for like auto tune style. We'll call it recently. And I just started using their version of it. But that's sort of a little bit of a slightly different topic, which maybe leads into the idea of control surfaces and being able to quickly get through some of these things, these tasks, these processes. If Ivan pops back up, I did want to include him, if you're listening, Ivan, about the same question about working with vocals and whether they're stacked or retuned or how they're approached. But my attitude from this comes from dialogue editing in mix to picks, where you're going to checkerboard all of the dialogue onto the individual speakers' tracks, and you're going to clip gain and envelope all of them. And I do this with my singing vocals too, most of the time, where I think we've certainly touched on this before. If your de-esser is don't want to like hit it with the full force of some of your worst sibilants, you might select that S and reduce its gain and do a crossfade into the word, and then you've solved it and not ruined anybody's day with your 5 kilohertz burst of white noise wrecked their tweeters. So what I did this week is assigned. Well, let me put a pin in that just in case. Ivan, can you jump in on anything with treating multi-layered vocals and retuning and stacking before we move on?
Oh,
I know you
I
work
don't know
with.
how much I have that on that because vocals are only something I'm starting to get good at, or get crappy at actually.
Starting from abysmal to crappy, is that
Yeah.
sort of where? Well, I mean that's a good process. Just then, without having to say what your preferences are, do you have some ideas about which way you're going with it when you approach vocals? Do you go for a solo presentation of a singer, or do you generally do stuff that's repitched and manipulated?
Right now, I mean, it's pretty solo,
Nice.
with a lot of effects.
Yeah.
I need to revisit that to get it to sound better.
Well, this is kind of one of the things we're here for, eh? So,
Exactly.
when it comes up, it comes up. I'll let you off the hook on that because I was trying to launch into my thing that I worked on this week. When I edit a vocal, let's just stick to like saying it's one lead, either a rap or a singing vocal. And this is what I do for my own stuff. Usually, this is pretty common intern level stuff. If you've never done it. I will strip silence. We don't need it. Get rid of the room tone. We don't need it. Get rid of the microphone getting hit. We don't need that in the track. And most of the syllables and words and phrases have at least one edit in them. They'll be split, and then we'll select that and change its volume. Or maybe just change its pitch a little bit because, hey, the take is great, but I wish I sang that note. This is basics without getting into auto-tune, the manual tuning, but especially the manual volumes. So to make a compressor work the way that you hear it on a record, oftentimes you need exquisite level control going into the track and a little bit of help on the way out of the track with the things that you really landed on, and maybe they're 7 decibels hotter than the rest of it, and it's just not necessary, and it's going to cause all kinds of downstream distortions and stuff. You look at that clip and you want to change its gain a little bit, and maybe you swallowed one of the syllables that's ends up being a really important word on the next line, and that's just looking like a little tiny blob, and you want to select it and bring that up, and now the word is present and it's part of the message that you intended, and you didn't have to redo it, and a punch wasn't even necessary because you're flying through the track finding all these little words. 5-minute song or whatever, and you've got 100 or so little edits now. I, in Ableton Live, never found a comfortable way to land on that clip and change its volume. There's no easy way to do that. The volume change for a little segment of audio is a tiny target. It's either a little fader, which is coarse, or a little tiny box with a numeric slider. And if you've got your screen, blown out so that you're taking up all 4K and you're embracing your pixels, these elements are very small. So it's hard to go clip all the way back down to the bottom of the screen, gain, clip, gain. I vibe coded a permanently connected controller, one knob, one function, as is my favorite thing to try to make happen, that permanently is wired to doing that clip gain and also pitch, but we're still just talking about gain. So I can fly down a track, put my mouse on a thing that's already segmented, or select it, maybe Command E to segment it, and then the knob is assigned to do the gain up or down. So I can select, adjust, select, adjust, select, adjust, and it does a takeover so that it doesn't jump to the parameter, and it smoothly interpolates, so it's going to add or subtract from where it's at. And I did it as, in this case, a Python script for a control surface, which is the term for things that are sort of permanently wired in Ableton Live, so that I can reliably always have that. And I'm going to buy some kind of cool, like either the MIDI Fighter knob box or something like a monome arc, like expensive, I don't know, something that has LED feedback also, and it feels nice to turn. This is something I've been looking at finding ways to make permanent controls that do one function for a long time. And this is the first one that I've successfully come across, completed rather, that I can remember. So it's past proof of concept stage and into I've used it now. And it's cool. So Ableton Live starts up. If my controller keyboard is turned on, then this knob right here automatically does the job to change the gain on the thing, and I'm pretty happy. So new features to be added. But flying through the track is now comfortable and speedy, and there's less back and forth. And I think that keeping one hand while you're in that mode or reaching for a known knob on your desk feels like a distraction remover, a productivity increaser. And also I'm a little bit happier that I built a tool, that works with my workflow. I don't know. It's a nerdy thing. It's a feature that's built into most DAWs that you can do. And there's other ways of making this happen for certain, but this is my rifle and it's mine. So I'm pretty psyched about that. And once next week I'll do the pitch also, and so that I can integrate it with the new their version of AutoTune. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that's really cool, dude.
And it's totally cool.
It's fun. My two questions about that are like, okay, what cool like heavyweight control knob with a high res LED ring am I gonna get? It might be Arduino. I don't know. It might, but that's further down the road. And then the actual prompt question is: have you dedicated any particular keyboard controllers to a task, or do you walk over to the instrument like it's a guitar and it's gonna make its own noises and rely on that? Do you like to interface with shortcuts in certain ways that are highly customized in your DAW? Do you use the stock methods? Brett, I'm gonna ask you that question first. I'm interested in what your creative approach to workflow and integration of controllers and speed is.
Yeah, so I use FL Studio. So my primary hardware controller, if you will, is going to be an Akai Fire. And I'm going to tell you the buttons that I use on it mostly are the play and stop buttons.
Yeah, big one.
If I am doing stuff in mixers, I might grab one of the knobs just to do some small edits. But I started this without any of this, and got very accustomed to just tweaking VSTs. So
I feel that deeply. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of advantages to that,
and so there's a lot of just native inherent comfort. There's other things that I do, like breath controllers, ribbon strips, the sliders and knobs that I can program to different things within FL Studio. To that regard, a lot of times it's like if I need a knob to do something, it's like I click learn controller, grab this, tweak it, and now they're married. And so they're more on the fly. And that's what I like about it. Is like give me some knobs, because I will do those things, but they're not dedicated to that role, not typically.
I wanted to love the there's a little hand icon in Ableton Live that tells you which controller has your which device has your controller on it, and with the auto mapping kind of thing. And I never clicked with it. I never, when the parameter changes and it doesn't show me on the thing, and I never really got it. So your mention of dedicated stop, and I would, if I ever get around to it, an illuminated backlit hardware button, stop, RTZ, punch in, punch out, loop, select, on, off, and record enable. That would do it. That would be my, just a big transport control, like on your sidecar for your Studer, tape deck. I would love that. I've got Type E keyboard equivalents for all those, of course, to do that thing, because this goes right to vocals, and guitar, the things that I most punch and reperform and shuttle around and do stuff with. When inventing and refining and finishing, the whole process is all a lot of that. So do you use your main controller's stop start hardware buttons?
I do. I also use the PC4. So the PC4 actually has a play, record, and stop right there as well.
Cool.
So it kind of depends on where I'm at in the studio. But whenever I'm going to record audio, I have a whole kind of mental checklist I go through. It's like mixer track, instrument, do I have all that lined up in the DAW to start with? So all of that is kind of right here anyway. If I'm recording something live, or recording like live audio, like maybe I want to sit there and mess with the pitch bends or something, or the mod wheel,
Yeah.
then a lot of that stuff is best done as a track live, and that's where I'll be over here, and I'll kick it off after setting up the record. In any case, what I'm trying to get to is a place where when I go to record audio, I have my hands on the thing that I need to control, whether that be a mic or that be an instrument, or maybe it's headphones or something crazy. I don't know. But that way, I don't run into a scenario where it's like, oh, I need another hand.
Yeah. I have more like sense memories coming back as you're describing the process. Whether I'm sitting in the booth or standing in the booth or sitting at the desk, like the actual physicality of punch start. So Ivan, do you have like some controllers set up that you go to, or do you ad hoc every time?
Pretty damn ad hoc at the moment. I've got a controller that's just a bunch of sliders and rotaries that I don't really use, just because like I'd have to keep remapping it, and that turns into a pain that I'm just not interested in. Usually these days, like I will throw a utility on every track and dial in the track, like the VST to get the audio roughly to where I want it, and then use utility to like, do that last mile for me. But
I do that too. Why do we not use the mixer faders to do this? I don't. I use a utility gain.
yeah,
I forgot why. There's a reason for this. It's like,
I don't have a mixer, so
well, I mean the virtual one, but also that would be a really good reason.
And I that's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer.
There's something about where the automation lands and
Yeah.
where the gain structure is in the signal chain and stuff that is easier to apply. And if anybody's wondering what the distinction is, the main fader on the channel is at the very end of everything, including all your echoes and whatever else you have as effect on the synth or voice. Whereas you can in Ableton and most other apps insert a module that includes a gain stage of its own. So you can essentially use that as your volume knob. And for whatever reason, if I'm going to do automation or if I want to do a trim at a certain point, I do it with that utility.
Yeah, well, it has the advantage of you can drop it into the chain where you want it instead of like having it happen too late.
It's a big deal. I mean, I also use the trims on all the effects and stuff kind of a lot too.
Totally, but totally do as well. And like mostly I'm using those to like gain stage everything so that I'm not clipping. And then after that, then I worry about like the actual gain of a particular track through the utility kind of almost exclusively. You were talking about building a controller just to handle that, and I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. But then I looked over and it's like I do have an Ableton push, and I pretty exclusively work in Ableton. And it seems like that's actually the right answer to the problem, because people just automatically like pick that stuff up when I click on a particular track.
Famously,
or
that's by the same company that makes the DAW and stuff. So
strangely enough, and it's really well thought out, and it works, and it's really fine grained detail wise. So like it's not just flying around when I'm turning the fader.
Yeah.
And it will get all the controls for a VST when you select
And they're
that.
labeled, and the parameter
And
numbers are showing, and that helps in the moment to build a good synth patch, or know which channel you're changing the volume on, and
So
labels near the knob.
it really occurs to me two things. One, I'm wildly underusing my push.
Yeah.
Like it's really underused. And also, I need to move it from over here where it's just kind of out of reach to someplace a little more in reach while I'm, editing or mastering a track or whatevering, so that it's just there for me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of an important one. I spend a lot of time sitting in front of the screens, so that's kind of the magnetic spot, the mix
Yeah,
position where the speakers are and everything.
yeah, it is.
Brett, your layout seems to be possibly like your speakers are in front of you right now, and I would imagine, is that your mix position, and your most of your work gets done from right there?
Yeah. So, like I said, right here is the Akai for FL Studio. Right here is a mixer that is responsible for really taking this half of the room, but currently is taking these two instruments, three instruments, if you count the effects box as an instrument.
I do.
Uh,
Yeah, we
this
can.
side of the room patches directly into my mixer, my primary mixer. And so I don't need another mixer for this side of the room. With that said, everything in here is designed to be within arm's reach.
Wingspan for scale.
That's right.
Interesting.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally okay. If I'm doing something on the DX7 and I want something to happen on the Casio, maybe I want those combined sounds. I want to be able to test it out. So that's my setup. And
So that leads me to say, a lot of your work is done by putting your hand on the instrument that's making the sound too.
Especially early on.
Yeah.
So early on, it's most of my stuff is done with hands-on instruments, including right down to the design. So after I have an initial concept going, then it starts becoming more and more and more DAW centric.
Yeah.
So it all kind of funnels in. And so by the time I'm doing things like I was doing last night, it's very much I'm dealing with a virtual mixer that I can automate all within the confines of the DAW, which is why I don't do so much of that on the primary mixer. I'd rather it be the static reference neutral, if you will. Everything coming into it is at the right volume to get it where I need it to be.
I thought I was weird for really, really, really seeking unity gain on all of my faders, but good. I mean, I really like it's almost a little bit compulsive doing, and then this not as much for a studio mix, because whatever, patience and nothing in real time is happening, but for live mixes, just the 6 or 7 source thing that I do every week for a client is unity straight across, so I can see if a fader is out of alignment. I know which one to push. It's kind of a helpful, place to start at, if that's the right level, and that means the trim and the compressor output and the if you're putting a utility gain somewhere in it to get all of your faders straight across to be, that's the mix, that's nominal. You can move them from there and get a visual guide for what you just left in the wrong place. And I will add, this has nothing to do with recording and music, but I got one fader on like the main person that it's a Roland mixer with motorized faders, and I don't see the mixer because I'm here in Boston and they're there in the suburbs. But it keeps jumping, like down 8 dB, minus 8 dB. So if she's up at 0 where she should be, and then so I'm like, I think that, I don't know if the motorized fader is bad, or if the encoder is gone, or if there's maybe mice there pushing it down. But damn it, every time she'll be like, full voice, and then kind of quiet. I'm oh shit, that thing, and I push it back up. So it happens like 5 or 6 times a show now. So I'm at the point where I have to actually go on site and deal with this shit. But these are the sort of things that you do run into. The more complexity you add and the more distance between you and the thing that you're actually playing, you start introducing these weird possibilities of things getting fucked up. And
Well, and
I
to that,
definitely try to avoid that.
yeah, and to that though, one of the things about having things that way is it takes some of the choice paralysis right out of the freaking framework. It's just like, okay, the machine works this way. We just get in and start doing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple other things that we can talk about. I don't know if any of these are. Jojo, don't touch my screens. What is with you? We'll have a little cuddle time or something. Is that right? She definitely wants attention.
Hi, Jojo.
Vocal edits and the things. Realizing the idea of releasing your work to small groups versus the public big groups. And we touched on this during our chat before the show about playing on Discord or Twitch, or my case, releasing to songs to Patreon. Brett, do you want to get us started on some of the thoughts and feelings and
Yeah, sure.
process about that?
So really, kind of my goal is actually just to be a little bit more interactive, if you will.
I will. We all
So
should.
much of what we do is really behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and things like Art of Rock and whatnot helps bring a lot of that to light. And I just figured it would kind of go hand in hand to show the actual show your work
Yeah.
element of it. And so the thought behind it is really basic. I show FL Studio. I show this camera here. I'm not trying to go into anything too. I don't record it. They're one and done. This gets destroyed. And what I've been doing is just randomly hopping on Discord or randomly hopping on Twitch. And okay, I'm doing a practice session and see who joins me. And yeah,
I think that's a great, like, it's in the execution. Like, creativity is its own thing, in your head, but when you actually do something, it becomes the work. So I like that you're doing that, and I've tried a few times to find reasons to do it, and it usually doesn't stick for me.
Mhm.
But there is still, like, that is not your release. That is not your finished thing. That is something that you're doing in its process. And that I definitely feel the distinction of when I put something out on Patreon. It is to people who have elected to be there. It is not likely to go algorithmically into a stream of other stuff that may or may not land with people who like it or may hate it or may want to very vehemently skip this, which puts a different spin on why it goes out there, and why you're motivated to put it in a place, and what the quality level differences are. Like, are we more forgiving of ourselves when we're going to put this to a pre-selected audience, or do we put more effort into making it polished for them?
I consider them previews. So for me, it's all about getting to the perfected piece, whatever it be. And a preview may not make it to release. It's as true as I can be what I'm actively working on at the moment. They don't all make it.
Sure. And that goes back to the things that we end up putting on the cutting room floor and sweeping away into the dustbin of obscurity. That's for sure a difference. Ivan, do you have thoughts on where you put stuff and which your different states of things are, or do you have one protocol for how you decide whether anybody's going to hear it?
I have mostly adopted one protocol. Like, my demos all go on to SoundCloud,
Cool.
and then from there it will eventually get mastered and then released uh to everywhere. Uh and usually like the difference between the two is really just the mastering at that point. Um I have been considering, starting out on, like Twitch
Hmm.
and messing around there and like I'm just not quite ready for that yet. Um, because like that would be boring for people to watch right now.
You know what though? Here's boring is relative. Like I have found some things that I didn't expect to sit and have on. I have found things that I enjoy having on in the background. I have found things that are, I might not even have the audio on, and maybe that's disrespectful to the person that did it because their audio was the point, or I may not have the video on because that was their point, and who knows. But different people get to consume your stuff in different ways, and there is sort of something to think about there with if you have the motivation to do something public, even if it's not your finished work, and you can hang a frame on it that titles it, in progress, and there's some number of people there that are going to vibe with, oh, I just checked in for a minute and saw which controller you're using, and it's kind of cool, or wow, that lick actually was inspirational. I'm going to stop watching Ivan right now and go make my own tunes. There's a lot of reasons, like,
Great.
yeah, I don't know.
I
I
have
Go ahead.
I have seriously considered doing a Twitch thing where like I've got a bunch of like generative stuff between Eurorack and the Hydrosynth that sounds reasonably okay and sounds like spacey enough to like go along nicely with like
That's your single criterion, really,
yeah,
is spacey enough. I get it.
yeah, yeah. Um, what I thought of doing, because like Twitch is Twitch, would be to start flying uh one of my video games again and running that as a Twitch show with generative music, the dynamic generative music. So like, as a scene heats up, the music would be changing with it.
Hmm.
And, as it cools down, it would do the same thing. And I think that that could be kind of cool. It's like back in the day, I was, doing the same thing except without music, like without my own music, on Twitch, and I got viewers. Like people actually watch that for some reason. I or don't entirely understand altogether why. I mean, maybe I made it fun somehow. And like back then it was like a YouTube playlist that ran on the side for me, and was fun enough that it did result in people wanting to apparently watch. Um, so that was cool, and I wouldn't mind like advancing that and getting it further along, make it more fun. um I'll have to see what happens on that, because like that like s- I'm very annoyed with my current like studio room. It is too small. I
Uh,
end up having to like multi-purpose this desk, as this is not just my like studio desk. This is also my work from home desk space. And so
right.
it needs to kind of double features, two wildly different things. And both of them take up their own kind of space. And it's both very different kinds of space.
Hmm.
I think once I'm upstairs, then I will actually be splitting the room. There will be the work from home side of the room and the studio side of the room, which will make things infinitely easier. Um, you have a different background for Saturday Zooms, which will be kind of nice.
Yeah, totally.
Hmm.
I take it back a couple of minutes to when we were talking about space layout and stuff. Like one of the things that I afford myself when I want to give myself a likelihood of being able to work on music is I get rid of the clutter. Um, and it's as simple for me as Yeah, there's a controller here I can touch. Synth controller is almost never on. And there's a guitar right in reach right here, so I can always pick up and play, and that I do. Um, but like I'm on rolly chair kind of size room, and keeping it so I can roll over to the piano and roll over to the synthesizers and stand up and play the drums and not have stuff between me and them, and maybe not have a chord get tangled. For whatever reason, that helps a lot, and it clears my mind and makes it so that I think I might work tonight. I come in here and I look at a clear path between where I'm about to sit in the piano or the ISO booth, and I think possibilities more of the time. I think a healthy thing might be to work past that and not worry about it and make a mess. That could be just as valid. But the therapy of putting things back in their spots and the idea of mise en place where you know where the thing is. This goes right back to why I want a knob that does the task that I'm looking for, and the piano that makes a piano noise when you sit down at it. And I go to that to echo a melody much more than I make the synthesizer controller on my desk, hooked up to Ableton, which wasn't launched. And now I got to make sure that the track is enabled that has the thing, and make sure the mixer channel that carries it was up. And it's more of a thing. Piano, you walk over to it, you got a thing, you can play some chords. Guitar, you pick it up, you strum it, you do the thing. Vocals, you do that. I used to leave all of my synths on all the time. Like that was just a thing. Like, I don't know, it was a crazy, like it's eco unfriendly and hostile as fuck, but that wasn't what was on my mind. It was like, if I'm not away from the studio for a week, I'm leaving the studio on. I need to have, except for maybe the memory mug, which had a fan and limited lifespan. But the things that are mostly DCOs and integrated circuits, and I just left them on. They were warmed up and ready to go, and you walk over to them. And that was the other way of doing it, which I can't do that anymore. It's like electricity and the environment kind of tell me not to. The cost, monetarily and ecologically, it's just a bad idea.
I leave the pathways on, like my PreSonus, it's on, my mixer is on, and my Motu is on. Those are fairly. The Motu is USB powered.
Yeah.
So is the PreSonus. So really, I'm leaving my computer on. And my computer is doing stuff for the studio when I'm not in the studio, like backups and data management, things like that need to happen. Updates, downloading sound libraries. So
I would imagine that any modern computer also doesn't use all 800 or 1010 1100 watts of its power supply when it's in sleep and processor idling mode, so it is not as inefficient. I haven't reminded myself of what the draw is, but I use a Mac Studio, which is a low power as fuck computer to start with, and I know that when it's in sleep, it's trickle. It's not a big impact. And that does allow it to wake up and do the backups and do the whatever file management it was going to do, and be on for wake on network access if I need files off it. So I'm kind of with you there on leaving the computer on. But not all devices are as smart about going to sleep or in idle when the computer does. So I have some downstream USB things that have drives in a case that don't spin down. And it's like, okay, no. So I do end up turning my stuff off much more frequently than I used to still.
Does
that get in the way?
Go ahead. I typically turn on the PC4 because the PC4 will turn itself back off if I'm not using it. That's because then I can generally control any VST or anything else I want in any kind of test case. And I just triggered something. Never mind that. If I need a more reactive keyboard, then I'll switch over to the DX7. If again VSTs or samples or something like that, this is weighted keys. This is not. But the DX7 doesn't turn itself off. So
yeah, that was way before like efficiency was a concern. It's like there was no sleep mode on these things.
So it's kind of about, it's kind of like for me, I'll engage. It depends on where I'm at, in the mix. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. If you're really cooking and it just happens to be like need to get out of the studio, everything definitely stays on in place and the door gets closed and JoJo comes out of the studio, so she's not going to dance on the control knobs and change things. And it's
yeah.
important to preserve that state and get back right into it. I actually had that. I look up how to preserve the state of things a lot. It's one of the things that I end up trying to figure out, like ways of hitting fewer buttons to make things turn on as a group and come back up in the state that they were at when you left them. Like that's an important thing for flow. That's an important thing for creative work so that you're not, first of all, killing the environment or ruining your gear that runs hot or has a lifespan or whatever, and you're able to get back to where you were. And yeah, curses if it doesn't one time out of 10, it's even worse. But I happen to have everything on switches, like as much stuff as that I generally turn on and off. If I can't do it by the voice assistant, yeah, no, most of it I can. Like most of the lights, most of the things that have loud fans in them that I'm going to need to shut on and off, most of the things that are too far away to reach and I don't want to get up if it's not on and I forgot to leave it on, they're on remote switches and I just hit a button on the main computer or phone or something and it comes on. And that's a thing that I've given to myself to make things flow better. They're not terribly expensive now either.
One of the things I used to do, now there was other reasons for it, mostly environmental. I used to live in Chester, South Carolina. We had a very, very old house. It was built in the 1800s, so it didn't even have grounding.
You and Ivan both with the knob and tube and
Yeah.
fabric covered wires.
That's right. That's right. So when I chose the room for the studio, the first thing I did was go buy some conduit and made really, really, really long power strips, and I chained them directly to the light switch.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, part of that was because thunderstorms would come through, and I might need to actually kill everything quickly because, these things don't like lightning.
No, I've had things with circuit boards that I've had to go to the swap fest and find a new circuit board to swap in because of arcing and stuff like that. I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the closest I've had to a single button kind of unification of the studio. It's like I came in and it's like when it was time to work, you literally chink in the entire studio.
You get that one big Frankenstein knife switch breaker panel thing. And, it might be a low voltage prop, but at least it controls your whole studio. And probably there's a Jacob's ladder and some plasma balls and stuff that go on first and some sound effects that just...
I would walk in, I'd hit the power for the studio and turn on the air condition, and then I'd go grab my coffee or a beer or whatever.
Right. Yep. I would love to talk about anything else that y'all want to bring up. I don't mind breaking early. I don't mind going another hour if we've got some more topics, but most of the stuff that I had on my week, I've sort of exhausted, which in some ways that's the blessing of actually having been busy recording stuff and putting it out. I haven't focused much on topical stuff, but anybody got anything else that you want to bring up?
I'm kind of with you. It's been kind of a busy week in that regard,
and you're tired. You need some nap time.
Well, I'll tell you, man. It was like it was by the time I got in there last night, it was do or die. I was like,
hell yeah,
with somebody. The demons need exercise. Damn it.
The war of art. Knock them dead. Ivan, what about you?
Pretty good, and cleaning out my back storage room today. I had been keeping all of the boxes that my various hardware had gotten shipped in, and it occurred to me that I'm now storing
yeah.
I'm storing fantastic quantities of air back there in cardboard. And so it's time for
You didn't even break them down. They have to stay with the packing foam and everything.
They do.
Yeah, structural,
But
100%.
I'm I'm undoing that choice now because like that just it has gotten to the point where like I don't have room back there anymore, and the reason I don't is because I'm storing air.
Yeah, that's a funny way of putting it. Mine's all up on top of the kitchen cupboards. That's the space. Used to be JoJo's little highway for running back and forth. Unfortunately, now it's all boxes of styrofoam and other air-like just volume monitor boxes, speaker boxes. Um, Before we run, D. Bellwether had a cool question. Beginner's query: when you start composing a piece, do you tend to start with a beat, a melody? What's the first step for you, Brett?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Done. Thank you. And that concludes our show.
No, I don't mean to make light, but yes, that happens a lot as well. So you know, it I it just kind of depends. Seeds of inspiration are exactly that. They're just seeds. Sometimes those seeds come from the fact that I made the synthesizer make a weird noise.
Yeah. I think
Sometimes it comes from, hey, I don't have an idea right now. Let me roll the dice on the auto gen MIDI, thing, and have it throw me out an EDM beat. Let's blend that with a hip hop beat. All right, that sounds neat. Let's blend that with jazz. Let's blend that with gospel. Let's, and sit there and cycle through different things until something actually truly strikes my fancy.
I want to put it this way. I don't know when I'm starting to compose a song most of the time. I have no idea. I just hope, that I'm sitting in the studio at a moment where I can capture something. And if it's a melodic thing, I'll sit down at the piano and maybe like the closest thing is the video button, since Brett, I didn't add my other action button to be a recorder yet, even though I said I was going to. I lied. But the one that makes a video so that there's audio being captured, and then now I'm starting a song, so it's a melody. Sometimes I've been playing for an hour and I realize a guitar. Like I sometimes just play guitar along with other people's music and jam, like whatever. And I'll realize I have an original thought or have reinterpreted a thought, and I'll put that down as an idea. But the work of I am writing a song, I intend to write a song, does happen from time to time. And it's like I have like a sort of fully fledged framework for what kind of song I want to exist, or maybe a suite of things, and I will actually sit down and put a rhythm down that will support either guitar or bass guitar, and then put down riffs in a key to start with, and then go back and add the counterpoint bass so it changes that a little bit, and I'll add a melodic thing. So it's stacking it that way more than. No, you know what? It's balanced. Like sometimes it's just a guitar lick, and then I'll have to force that into time when I put the drums under it. I think it really varies for me too, but it would center around bass guitar, piano, getting drums down first to play those along with that kind of vibe more often than some other ways, which could be just a noise effect or a patch that inspires me on a synth, or a new synth that's got a cool arpeggiator in it or something like that. Those can be inspirational too, and great places to start a song. You take it wherever it comes. Ivan, do you have anything to weigh in on from?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. Again, just because that seems like the ask any of us, and the answer is probably going to be yes. But quite often, what I will do is, I mean, like it depends on so many things. Um, I will hear something out in the wild and like hear how it was built, and then think to myself, well, I want to do something kind of like that, and then go and like make the individual parts that get me there, and then those become like a scene, and then I will build one scene after another, and then arrange those together in Ableton. 'Cause, my whole way of doing composition is very Ableton centric.
Mhm.
Yeah, fair. I mean, these are the tools. Absolutely, it's as much a tool as sitting down with a guitar, for sure.
For sure.
Which occasionally I will sit in the lounge room on the couch and sort of pluck out some chords and sing along with them, and that is another way, and hopefully record the results for remembering later.
I would say it would be, I'd say most of the time it's probably inspired by moods, because, like you were talking about, sometimes you want to sit down and play the guitar, and you might just want to do it just for that exercise.
Yes.
And I'll sit there a lot of times when, like, all right, when I want to come in, break out the Schecter, I'll sit there and I'll usually throw some metal. I'll quickly design a basic rock metal beat in FL Studio, give it an X name, and then I'll spend the next 2 hours just noodling. Sometimes that's productive. Sometimes it's just exercise.
And
Fun.
productive in that you're working, keeping the calluses and muscles and dexterity,
Right.
and in the mindset of being a music person and all that stuff. It counts. It definitely counts.
Yep.
I'm gonna paste one thing and one thing only into the chat as we wrap up, and that is MTV TV. Diana, if you want to start a raid, the group might find themselves over there experiencing some awesome tunes and videos, or the incredible hosts doing something really. I think that it's thespianism is what they exhibit over there. Really, it's the true craft of acting and evoking characters and stuff is the way I like to think of their VJ segments and skits and really drama. Their stage plays. They're full. It's a pageant. So go over, check that out. We're gonna wrap it up. And there is a Discord, and there are Patreon pages for everybody. Brett, do you want to mention where to see your stuff?
Yeah, easiest place to link to all the others is Demon Hate website. I'll throw that in here right now. There you go.
Cool. And I'm gonna say ushriek.com. Nobody ever just puts their website for anything anymore. I mean, it's kind of like a link tree. It's kind of like an Instagram. Ivan, what do you got? You want to go to the SoundCloud for your stuff? You got anything?
SoundCloud, I see Roseland, and easy to find. I don't know the URL off the top of my head.
Beautiful. That's perfect. That's the kind of promo that we seek to engender here. This is what learning how to do this.
You can tell we're musicians first.
Yeah.